are listening to the Doing Motherhood podcast, where we talk all things Black mothers today. What's the goings on, listener friends? So today is a very short episode. This is an episode that I wanted to record. It's really personal to me, this episode. So I'm kind of just speaking from my heart, speaking from my feelings. It's about empty nesting, right? I told you all before, my youngest son is going off to college. My oldest son lives in another state. And so for me, this is just a time of great transition and admittedly some turmoil in this transition as I'm just kind of, trying to get through it. So I'm going to get into that today. This is going to be the start of my Empty Nest Chronicles. And today it's titled, I Am Not Okay. I'm okay. I will be okay. But before we get into it, this is a reminder that the Doing Motherhood podcast is accepting sponsorships from small businesses. If you are looking to advertise your product or services on this growing podcast to a vast audience of women, mothers, professionals, creatives, and birth workers, this is the time to get on. See the link in the show notes below, and you'll get more details about how you can become one of our sponsors. So back to this grieving process, or my Empty Nest Chronicles. It's been rough for a few months now. And what I'm usually used to, like, the end of the year, things kind of get dark and heavy with, the whole, like, what do they call it? Seasonal depression, all of that. Like, it's mild usually. But usually at the beginning of the year, I find myself, ready to go again. And this year it's been so different. What I've come to realize is that the grieving process that I thought I would be experiencing after I dropped him off at college, or when I do drop him off at college, it's well underway. It's been underway. And so I wasn't prepared for that. I had started preparing myself for what I was going to do, or what I am planning to do when he is gone in August. I did not realize that I would be going through such a deep range of emotions at this time. I've been a mom since I was 14 years old. I was in 10th grade when I had my oldest son. And so every life decision that I've made since then has centered my children. And it's really hard for me to know how to make decisions with only myself in mind. And so I just, there's a lot of overwhelming feelings. People, when I talk to people that I see on a daily basis, they're like, well, how are you doing? How are you doing? And it's like, all I can say is, like, I just have a lot of really big feelings. Because if I say more than that, I feel like I'm going to burst into tears. And so that's part of it. Like, some of what I've been experiencing is that, like, I am weepy all the time, and a lot of times out of nowhere. Like, I can, like, be minding my business, driving down the road, thinking about the client that I'm about to see, or what the grocery list is, right? And then out of nowhere, I'll have a memory from my kids being smaller, and it just sends me into a ball of tears. I find myself wanting to go back to the days when they were little. I find myself thinking about, like, what life looks like when I'm living alone, and kind of like the fear that comes with that, just because it's something I've never done before. I've always lived with a house full of people. And sometimes even finding myself in, like, darker thoughts. And so every day this year has been a really hard day in a way that I'm just not used to experiencing. And these are feelings that are new to me. And probably some of this was creeping in at the end of last year too, like around November, or just like probably October, probably October through December. That's probably all of what was going on. But the clouds are starting to break now. I'm feeling like I've probably worked through the thickest part of those feelings, or this process, at least this initial stage of, this grieving process. in the last couple of weeks. Like, I feel like my mind is more clear. The days haven't felt so heavy. And like I'm starting to see my rainbow. And so I just keep looking forward to like each day feeling a little bit better, and being able to do a little bit more as opposed to what it was like when these really heavy feelings started to set in. And so in the spirit of staying light, because if you remember, listener friends, I told you at the beginning of 2022 that my word for 2022 is light. And I'm committed to living lightness, being light, and sharing, right? Illuminating what's going on in my world. And so I think that this is something that is really important. I've been looking around for information about empty nesting, and I find some information. I don't see a whole lot of Black women talking about it. So I was like, well, we're going to talk about it on the Doing Motherhood podcast, right? So I will be sharing this journey with you all. I hope that I can be a guiding light for those who might also be experiencing this empty nest syndrome, because it's a whole syndrome. I didn't even know that. I thought it was like baby blues, like you have it and then it's gone. No, this is a whole thing. So, and for those of you who will find yourselves at this place sooner than you thought, because I knew the time was coming, but I didn't know this time was coming. So in the spirit of lightness, what is helping? What I've been finding to help me is, number one, just slowing completely down. Really hard for me because I'm used to like going and having a bunch of responsibilities and being able for the most part to like work through them just fine. But that's not been happening. And so I'm listening to my body, I'm listening to my spirit, and I'm slowing down. It's not so great for business, right? All my business plans for the first quarter just kind of got, but whatever. I need to slow down. I'm resting. And when I say I'm resting, I mean, like, I don't mean like my usual rest is like, I'll go home and I'll just sit on the couch and work on some stuff, right? But now I'm like, no, I'm going to, if I'm at home and I'm in a rest mode, I'm not doing anything. I'm not planning things in my mind. I'm not going through my agenda. I'm not, I'm letting it all go and I rest. I am going to be heavy on nap ministry this year. I am doing intentional spiritual work. And so that includes meditation. That includes the spiritual community that I've built around myself, studying and practicing the rituals that have become really important to me and that help me move through these tougher times a little bit easier. I've started my regular therapy sessions again. If you know anything about me, honey, I love to be on a therapist's couch. Because I gotta stay right. So I called my therapist. I was like, hey, I know that I go through, like, when I find myself in these depressive or anxious moods that last for a long time, it's usually just situational. And I need like the regular therapy to help me get past the hump. And then I have, I check in every now and again. But so I called my therapist up and was like, all right, we got to start doing these regularly again. So that's happening. Quality time with Bryce and Jahari, my kiddos, my sons, my young men, because they're not kiddos. Cooking more, because that is helping me explore my own creativity, and it helps me explore, different menus and whatever. It's fun. And so it brings me joy. And so I'm also trying to do the things that bring me joy. And then lastly, I've been watching YouTubers who are living life on their terms, the expats and the nomads and the tiny house people. Like, that's my crew right now. That's what I'm into, because it helps me realize that I can create my next step or my next mode, and that it can look any way that I want it to look. And so it brings me joy and brings me some hope for what the future is going to look like. My plans. So those are the things that have been helping me get through my plans going forward, because I think it's very important to at least have an outline of what the next step is going to look like, so that I don't get there and then find myself right back in that dark space again. So one is just scaling back my business for some breathing room. I was like so on top of myself, just like piling things on and stay busy and do this. And I had to really come to terms with myself and realize that, like, not even realize, but remember that what I told myself when I started this is that my business is, it's more of a spiritual business than it is hustle and grind and like trying to build an empire and all that stuff. I was in it. I was in empire building mode and grind it out and was going to hustle it out. But what I realized is that for the life that I want moving forward, that is not how I plan to move anymore. And so I'm scaling things back a little bit so that I can give myself some breathing room so I can really just like make this thing happen the way that I want it to happen and do that with some peace. Secondly, I haven't started, this is the plan, but I want to start living outside again and like living my life again, speaking to COVID and coronavirus and, you know, been cooped up, haven't really gone out, haven't done anything. And so I want to get back to the stuff that I like going to festivals and going to museums and going to live music events outside. I'm still going to wear my mask, but I don't, you know, like in order for me to be well, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, I've got to get back to some semblance of what my life looked like. And then finally creating a new 5-year plan of what life is going to look like on my terms. And that includes my wildest dreams because I know that I can do those things, right? And so that is what's helping me push past this hump. Like I said, I'm going to start making this a regular chronicles, like a regular series. I'll call it Empty Nest Chronicles, at least for now. But, you know, if you're interested in that, please tune in. Please leave your comments on Instagram and YouTube. I want to know your empty nest stories, the feelings that you're having. If you have questions about it, I don't know a whole lot, honey. I'm in the thick of it, but we're going to get some help and we'll find some resources. So let's talk about that. Again, ways that you can support the podcast by subscribing and sharing wherever you listen. The podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms, so you can subscribe there. Please share also with your friends, family, and other network. Leave a review. I want to know what y'all think of the podcast. I want to know what you want to listen to as well. So let's make this a two-way street. And also leaving comments on our social media pages. So on Instagram and on YouTube. And that's that. Tell me what you think. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.